When a club enters administration, this means that the club can no longer fulfill financial obligations. Unfortunately, with analysts predicting that this is just a start and other clubs are going to be entering administration as a knock-on effect of COVID-19, should a better solution be found to deal with clubs who are entering administration?
But I see it better now, 'cause everything you do only says you gotta figure it out.
What's up guys, George Lyons here, welcome back to the Soccernomics YouTube channel, and you're watching The Rounds. As usual guys, before we head off today's episode, just going to let you know to hit that subscribe button if you are new. If you like football content, football finance, football economics, that sort of stuff, then this is the channel for you. So hit that subscribe button and continue watching. So, there has been some very disappointing news, unfortunately, that has come out this week. Derby County Football Club have entered administration, meaning that they will face a 12-point deduction in the championship, with an additional 9 points potentially being added on as well for ongoing legal battles with the EFL over unethical accounting methods. The club sitting in mid-table after a handful of games as this video is being filmed. This point deduction will see them plunge to the bottom of the championship, and again will be very high contenders for another relegation battle at the end of the year. But the thing is, that's only if the club survives. But what exactly is administration? And what happens when a club enters administration? On the 18th of September 2021, Derby County announced that they were entering administration after claiming that the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted and affected the ability for the club to fulfill their financial obligations, and with a suitable buyer of the club unable to be found. The Rams are reportedly making losses of around £1.3 to £1.5 million a month, and now the club are calling on administrators to try and help them find a suitable buyer. When a club enters administration, this means that the club can no longer fulfill financial obligations, so things like player wages. Control of the club is then passed on to the administrators to try and prevent the club from essentially being liquidated. And there are really two ways of making that happen. Either number one, you find a suitable owner who's willing to take on all the debts of the club, or number two, selling off club assets in order to raise funds to pay off creditors. These assets consist of players, stadiums, training facilities, and of course club merchandise as well. That's why when we see clubs enter administration, there normally is a fire sale of players, as it not only reduces their costs and their wage bills, but it also raises quick revenue in order to pay off creditors. We saw this happen a couple of seasons ago with Wigan Athletic. After they entered administration, they pretty much sold their entire first team squad for players such as Kiefer Moore, Jamal Lowe. These were so that they could essentially just raise the important funds needed to pay and satisfy those debts. Now, there is actually a hierarchy, a sort of order in which creditors are paid off in terms of like most important to least important. And at the top of the hierarchy is known as the football super creditors. In this category, there are players. Of course, players do have wages and contracts that need to be fulfilled. Likewise with managers as well. Other football clubs, so outstanding fees for previous transfers, the PFA, the Football League, and the Premier League. After that, the preferential creditors are then paid. Well, I mean, that's if there's anything left. If there's not enough to satisfy all creditors to the club, then the club has to be liquidated. This is what happened to clubs like Bury in recent times, along with clubs such as Chester, Scarborough, Hereford, Darlington, Macclesfield, all these clubs in the past. While clubs are in administration, they are also protected by what is called the statutory moratorium, which is basically an embargo on other parties from taking legal action against the club. Entering administration doesn't necessarily mean that the club is going to get liquidated. There have been some examples of clubs who have entered administration and then come out of it and managed to basically recover. Clubs such as Leeds United, Southampton, Wigan Athletic, Huddersfield, even Portsmouth and Bolton Wanderers as well have all entered administration in the 21st century and survived. So what sanctions are given to clubs for entering administration? So clubs are actually awarded a 12-point deduction for basically entering administration. But why a points deduction and not like a fine, for example? Well, this is the thing, right? The club is entering administration because they've got financial issues. So a fine is either counterintuitive or the club just won't be able to pay it back. The thing is though, clubs do need to be held accountable for putting themselves into administration. But is a points deduction really the most suitable punishment? This method has received plenty of backlash in the past because what the 12-point deduction really does, it affects the fans and it affects the club as a whole, but it doesn't really affect the people who put the club in that position in the first place, the owners. They are the people who mismanage the clubs and mismanage their finances in order to put them basically in jeopardy. As long as they can find somebody to take on the debts and cover their losses, they can just walk away. Although this is of course a lot easier said than done, because who wants to take on millions of debt? Administrators can also renegotiate financial obligations with other clubs and other creditors as well. So if the club, for example, owes around $100,000 to another creditor, they can try and renegotiate the contract so that they can pay that off over installments over a certain number of years. Known as a CVA, or a company voluntary arrangement, this allows clubs to basically try and renegotiate their contracts or basically their financial obligations that they owe to other creditors, that they can just pay it back over a certain amount of installments. Unfortunately, with analysts predicting that this is just the start and other clubs are going to be entering administration as a knock-on effect of COVID-19, should a better solution be found to deal with clubs who are entering administration? Rather than putting sanctions on the club itself, should they be supported and the ramifications instead be passed on to the people who are putting them in financial hardship? Or one step further, should there be a better process to prevent these kinds of owners from acquiring football clubs? People such as Gary Neville are huge advocates for this, stating that the owners of these football clubs should be held accountable for not meeting the obligations that they sign up for. There are some actions being put in place in the form of a fan-led review to implement an independent regulator to tackle these sort of issues and improve the fit and proper ownership test. But this doesn't mean that they can help clubs who are suffering right at this moment. Clubs like Derby County. Unfortunately for Derby County, they're not in a position where they can sell off their star players and receive all the funds that they need to satisfy their obligations. Unfortunately, their actual playing squad is not the most valuable. They've got maybe 1 or 2, 3 players that they could receive some decent funds for, but that's not probably going to satisfy what they have to pay back. Now, you could say that they do have the stadium, but the thing is, the club no longer owns a stadium. It's a bit of a weird one, but essentially their owner, Mel Morris, ended up selling the stadium to a company that he created and then started loaning it back to the club. So the club doesn't actually own the stadium. So yeah, they're in a pretty sticky situation at the moment. They don't have a lot of assets that are worth much money. Of course, nobody wants to see a club get liquidated, especially a club like Derby County. This is a club steeped in huge history. They've got 2 English division titles. They've also got an FA Cup from 1946. They even made it to the semi-final of what is now the Champions League. I mean, they were one of the founding members of the Football League back in 1888. Yeah, I guess only time will tell to see if they make it out alive, but yeah, it will be a sad day if they don't. Anyway, that's all I've got time for today, guys. I hope you, I hope you didn't enjoy today's episode, but you know what I mean. If you found this episode both informative and entertaining, please hit the like button down below. Also, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button if you like this sort of content. We do this a lot. Also, leave your comments as well. We'd love to hear your feedback. And yeah, apart from that, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you very soon.
Being a stranger to what we lost, I'll keep my guard down and hope it comes back around, cause I still just feel like you and I are gonna keep running in circles till we find out what we need is each other, a space between